It's late, and I'm just going to say this. Apparently, these documents don't need to be scanned. Last week, we had a big discussion about scanning these documents. We were told that they were not in electronic format. Where are we with that?
Yes,
I'd like to call to a vote.
I would like to know why during the last discussion we had, and we were deliberating scanning and creating something like this, we weren't informed that these were in a electronic format, because it certainly would have changed the task.
I'm not really sure at this hour what your question actually is. I'm sorry.
At the last meeting, we had a lengthy discussion about scanning that book. 2 people have been told that that was not in electronic format. Then, as we all know, it was produced. I'm asking the superintendent, why, what's the confusion here? Because if we were thinking of this last week as just taking electronic format and putting it up there, that would be a lot less task than scanning and organizing that book.
I'd like to call the question to a vote.
I'll second. All those in favor of calling the motion to a vote signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed?
No.
No.
Dr. Lipton,
Yes.
you were about to say something, Michelle, on the motion to a vote.
Well, let's sort of give a no-spin answer. And answers need to be in context. The idea of an online policy book, I first had a discussion with Mr. Liscars at the time that I handed him his policy book. And during the course of that conversation, he mentioned, and for people who haven't seen the well, you have the policy book with you. It's like a 50, well, it's a hefty document. During the course of that conversation, Mr. Liscars asked about it being done electronically or being put online. As new board members came in, it would be much more convenient. And I believe that I said, I wholeheartedly support that, and it would be a great summer project. The motion that came before the board was to scan. Give me a second. To scan or provide digital electronic copy of all procedural and policy documents used in the school board. And the first thing on there was the policy manual. What I said is the policy manual does not exist in electronic format. And the policy manual does not exist in electronic format. It does not. The 270 policies as individual Word documents appear to exist. But the policy manual does not exist in electronic format. Putting it into an ebook format that would be searchable and comply with the National School Boards Association cataloging system would be a task that I was more than willing to do over the summer. I supported it 100%. I have tried very, very hard tonight to be a good boy. I've like stared off into space. And it's late and it's hard. We're all very, very tired. But I was very, very clear that the policy book does not exist in electronic format. What Mr. Liscaz has posted is not the policy book. When I was asked under Right to Know to produce the policy book, I said the same thing. The policy book does not exist in electronic format. So we've gotten into this era of precision. And I'm not playing games with it, but if I'm asked to do the book, and I say the book doesn't exist in electronic format, it doesn't. And no matter how we spin it, it does not exist. I don't want to hear a counter to it. It does not exist. That's why I said it doesn't exist, because it doesn't.
So Dr. Littlefield, we're to believe that all the pages in that book are in electronic format. So I
No.
guess,
No, you're not.
well, I looked at what was produced, and all of the policies that I had in my copy of the book
All the
were
pol-
produced.
I apologize for interrupting you.
Okay. Can I just go forward? I don't agree with that, and if my child brought home a book without a cover, I'd say they still have the book. What I'd like to comment on is, during our discussion of scanning, I think that you should have interjected the point that the majority of the work, which was the scanning, had already been completed. Because we went on and on talking about scanning with the full belief that the only way to make those policies electronic was to scan them. And at no time in that discussion did you inform us that the job was not as big as we thought.
Madam Chair, my first meeting with Dr. Littlefield was an hour, and I was really happy when he presented that book, with all the policies inside of it. And as he said, the first thing I said to him, I said, "Wow, that's a big book. Are all these policies online? Are they in electronic format?" No. I said, well, one of the first things I'd like to do, I'd like to, get this in electronic format and get this put out on our website. And he did. He said, I support that. I fully support that motion. And that's the motion I presented to this board that night. And to Mr. Pearl's point, when I was going on about scanning these pages, if we already knew they were in electronic document format, it would have been an opportune time to save us all. It would have saved me a lot of time in my motion, even. You know what? Again, I'm trying to learn, and when I asked what I thought was a very simple question, and we go through all of this,
So then,
I'm concerned.
could I ask you why I come back, having done research based on what you brought to us,
Mm.
and I bring it up that it already exists in 2 other school districts, and I say, why don't we have him look into the creation of an online manual that would go in conjunction with the technology committee? You don't want to support it?
No, because, may I speak?
Yeah.
Because Representative Axton has been telling us since the last meeting that it's already being considered with our website design. So why would we want to add more burden and give them direction from this board, which we tried to do last week, that failed? Like I agree with my board member here, let's let the technology and the website committee do this work they're already undergo, as she's mentioning. Why are we now going to inject what we already know failed last week? Let's just let them do their work. Let's not overburden them. I'm agreeing with this board as I did last week. So let's not overburden them with our way of thinking or our direction. They're already doing this in a subcommittee. Let them go.
Can you pause to a question, please?
I'd like to speak. I am very disappointed for the answer that we got from the superintendent. To say that many policies exist, but they're not a book. I think that's the kind of answer that Dr. Littlefield wouldn't want to accept, but he's offering it. And I have a hard time accepting that. And then when we go to a discussion talking about scanning, That information is not offered to us, so we're led to believe that these are all paper documents.
If I might, Madam Chair,
Yes, Dr. Littlefield.
I don't care what spin we put on it. That is a policy book. I have nothing further to add. I remind the board that you do have a policy on meeting times, and I would like to let the administration go. I would like to know what you want to do in the meantime. I have nothing more to say on the issue of policy manual. You cannot recreate history. It doesn't exist electronically. There is a foundation upon which, you know, one of the things that I did when you were speaking, Mr. Curl, is I was so interested in what I had to say that I opened my mouth, and I apologized immediately. I feel the same way when I want to say something, Mr. Liskers, and the hand goes up right away, and I have the sense, probably wrong, that what I'm saying isn't being listened to. So I take the same type of offense that I would have taken if I were you when I interrupted you. I just don't think I'm being listened to, so I have nothing further to say. The book does not exist in electronic format. You can't produce the individual policies as it turned out. And I do, I have to finish. The motion was to scan the policy manual and make it available online. So it had nothing to do with individual policies. It was the policy manual. The manual is right here. I'm done.
Madam Chair, I raised my hand when Dr. Littlefield began to speak, and he started mentioning the word spin. Well, by saying spin, you're putting a spin. So if we're going to all appreciate each other and the time we're spending here, we've got to stop doing this. We've got to treat each other professionally and stop with the extra words. I mean, I didn't say a spin on what Dr. Littlefield told me when I showed him this book. You know, this is a book to me. There are pages in here. If I had known that night, or even when I talked to Dr. Littlefield in his office for an hour, that all of the pages in here were in already electronic format, I wouldn't have done all the extra work of creating a motion and wasting this board's time on voting and deliberating. I wouldn't have done it. I wouldn't have had to do it. So I just, you know, I take exception to saying spin, which infers that we're spinning something. We're not spinning. We have truth. We have a citizen's right to know request that they gave us, and that citizen got the same answer that I got. So I take exception to using the word spin when you're talking with us. Let's be professional. Let's talk about the facts so we can move on together. I am tired of the innuendos that are coming from certain members of the board or from yourself, Dr. Littlefield. I don't appreciate it.
Whoa,
I
big
don't
fella.
appreciate it.
Wait a minute.
Madam Chair,
Wait a minute.
I have my hand up. I'm a member of the board.
Now, I have a
Yeah,
point of
what's your
information.
and you can
I have a
object.
point of information, and it's an incorrect statement. All the pages of that book do not exist in electronic format. They do not. That's the issue. They do not. It can't be debated. They do not.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Cheryl.
I'd like to bring some clarity.
Excuse
No.
me, Cheryl, had her hand up first.
We never voted to extend the meeting. I was hoping to wait till after we got through this motion. I'm just, point of order.
I would like to bring a little clarity and closure to this. I would like to ask Dr. Littlefield, he's made a statement that not all the policies exist in electronic format that are in that book. So I would ask him, how many?
I said, point of information, that's not what I said. I said all the pages. The assertion was all the pages. That's not what I said.
I'm sorry, and I apologize. Could we find out how many pages are in this physical book that are not electronical, so we can get a gauge on whether we're talking about a lot or a few?
I think it's a few. I think it would be indices, separators, and so forth. However, if they are done, a book it does not make.
Thank you.
This type of thing is there.
Thank you. I'd like to just clarify so we can move on. I think the public has heard what Dr. Littlefield considers the book. I think we've been fair now to have him indicate that the separators, the title pages, and so forth are absent online, and therefore that does not constitute a book. We can form our own judgment about how we feel about that, and the public can form their own judgment about it. I'm ready to move on. I think he's clarified. That's how we started. I asked him to please clarify. So I'm satisfied, and I'm ready to move on this issue.
Cheryl, you made a motion to call it to a vote.
I'll second it.
Nobody's
All
We're
those,
voting on? I'm sorry.
we're voting on calling the motion to a vote.
The motion about setting this up.
The motion was I'd like to ask Dr. Littlefield to research the creation of an online policy manual on the Hooksett School District website. So we're calling that to a vote. Cheryl? We're voting on calling the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 4-0. We are now voting on the motion to ask Dr. Littlefield to research the creation of an online policy manual on the Hooksett School District website. All those in favor signify by saying,
Madam
Yes.
Chair, can we just have Leanne read that back, please?